Welcome to Trekity's Empowering Women series. I'm Trekity CEO and founder, Darcy Connell, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing the Queen of the Appalachian Trail, Jennifer Pharr Davis. Hi, Jennifer. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Before I get started, I just want to highlight some of Jennifer's accomplishments. Not only has Jennifer hiked the Appalachian Trail multiple times, but she holds the fastest speed record, hiking 2,181 miles in 46 days, 11 hours, and 20 minutes. She wrote Becoming Odessa, which chronicles her adventures hiking the Appalachian Trail, and she's hiked thousands of miles all over the world, including Mount Kilimanjaro and Inca Trail in Peru. So let's go ahead and get started with the interview. So Jennifer, for our listeners who might not know, what is the Appalachian Trail?
The Appalachian Trail is a 2,181-mile long-distance trail that travels along the corridor of the East Coast. It starts or ends in Georgia and runs all the way up to Maine. And for people who want to hike the entire trail all at once, it usually takes 4 to 6 months. But of course, anyone's welcome to go out and just day hike it or spend a weekend or a week out there as well.
And so for those that hike the entire trail, those are called through hikers, is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so how did you first hear about the Appalachian Trail and when did you decide to hike it?
I was fortunate enough to grow up about an hour and a half away from the trail, but I never set foot on it until I was 21. I just sort of heard about it through stories, and it seemed almost mythical or too hard to be possible. But when I graduated from college, I was 21 years old and didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And if there's ever a time to try something that's impossible, 21 is a good time to do it. So, I set out on my own to hike the entire trail, and I think I was naive and stubborn and flexible enough to somehow make it all the way to the end.
Wow, that's incredible. And why did you set out to break the record hiking speed for hiking the Appalachian Trail in 46 days?
Well, it took me a long time and a lot of miles to get to that point. I really fell in love with long-distance backpacking on my first through hike on the Appalachian Trail, and so I continued to seek out other trails and pursue treks on other continents. And after having thousands of miles of backpacking under my belt, I wanted a new challenge. And for me, exploration is about going to a new place, and that can be geographical, or it can be a new place within yourself, exploring your limits and what you're made of. And so I wanted to see how quickly I could traverse the Appalachian Trail. And I thought I'd do it by myself with my backpack, my tent, and my sleeping bag, how I had always backpacked. But it was around that time that I also got married. And so my husband was willing to be my support crew, which allowed me to go after the supported record, which is usually, the overall or the faster record on the trail. And with his help in 2008, I set the women's record, but we both knew that after that we could do better, and we wanted to do it to the best of our ability. And so we went back in 2011, and I became the first female to ever hold the overall record.
What was your typical day schedule for hiking the trail? And I'd like to hear more about how your husband helped support you too.
On the overall record, I woke up almost every single morning at 4:45 a.m., and I would try to be walking on the trail by 5 a.m., and then I would put in about 16 or 17 hours a day of hard hiking. It was very difficult, and it sounds very arduous, but in a way we took a tortoise in the hare mentality to this trip, because previously the record had been held by ultra runners who had run during the day and tried to put in very fast miles. And I hiked the entire trail, so I was never going much over 3 miles per hour, and I knew that I needed to just put in very long, very steady, consistent days. My husband helped me by allowing me to only focus on the hiking. Every time the trail came out at a road crossing, he would be there. He had my gear, my food, my supplies. I would get whatever I needed from the car and keep going. If I could end the day at a road crossing, then he would have everything set up. The tent, my sleeping bag was unrolled. He would have dinner cooked. And so he made it possible for me to spend as much time every day hiking as I could.
Wow, incredible. So you said that you didn't run any parts of the trail. I was going to ask if you did run any parts and if you had any experience running, but for the most part, you said you did all hiking.
Yeah, my approach on the overall record was to hike the majority of my miles. And then within the first week, I came down with some really agonizing shin splints. And at that point, any thoughts I had held of running just disappeared. I do enjoy running. I've done several marathons and ultra marathons, and I run recreationally at home, but I believed that I would have a better chance at setting the record if I was able to hike because it's lower impact. I felt like there was less risk of falls or injuries if I was hiking, and I think using that strategy, I felt better even though I felt abysmal. I felt better at the end of the trail than maybe record holders in the past felt who had run the entire distance.
Right. And, you said you were hiking for 16 hours a day. That's like working 2 full-time jobs. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Most people hike the Appalachian Trail northbound from Springer Mountain in Georgia to Mount Katahdin, Maine. Why did you hike southbound?
Well, my first through hike, I went south to north, starting in Georgia and ending in Maine. So I was really glad to have had that traditional experience. But knowing the trail and having that experience, I realized the most technical stretch of the trail is in Maine and New Hampshire. And on a record, I wanted to get that portion of the trail over with in the beginning when I was fresh. And also, due to the time I started in June, I had the longest daylight hours of the year to travel the most technical, rugged section of the trail. So starting from the north and coming south, I got the hardest part over with in the beginning. And then growing up in the southeast, the closer I got to the end, the more support we had. Friends and family would come out to hike with us or bring food or supplies or cheer us on. And that was really helpful towards the end.
Oh, okay. And I'm just curious, do most people go northbound because of the weather, or is it just the way they choose to do it?
Yeah, you have a little bit longer season to finish if you're hiking northbound. There's better weather. You avoid some of the bug seasons in New England. And a lot of the trail towns, communities, and amenities are sort of set up now for the northbound hikers.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. And I've heard that on the trail, people are given trail names. What's your trail name and how did you get it?
My trail name is Odessa, and it's a spinoff of Odysseus. Again, hiking the trail for the first time when I was 21. I had just graduated from college, and my senior thesis was on the Odyssey, and basically I'm a big dork. And so I got on the trail and was comparing everything to the Odyssey, and another hiker was like, hey, your trail name should be Odysseus. And even within the first week, I was like, I don't want to be a boy. I don't want a male trail name. There's too many guys out here already. And so we just regendered the name, and I became Odessa.
So that's been your trail name on all of your hikes then?
That's right. The past 10 years, I've been Odessa out on the trail.
Have you ever given anybody else a trail name?
Yeah, at times. Other people have gotten trail names, but usually it's through an experience that we share, or, maybe we're eating a food like Pop-Tarts and peanut butter, and all of a sudden their trail names become Pop-Tarts and peanut butter. So there's a lot of different ways to get a trail name, and they're really a fun part of the trail culture.
Yeah, definitely. I look forward to getting one someday.
Yeah.
So what were some of your most memorable moments on the trail, good or bad, and from any of the hikes that you've done?
Oh my gosh, I've had so many highlights. It's hard to pick just a few. I think the trail has really, for me, reflected growth and change in my life. For example, one hike I took in 2008 was a 600-mile trek in Australia that I hiked by myself 2 days after getting engaged. And it was just such a pivotal time in my life. And I think that trail in that instance gave me the ability to process what was going on and mourn the loss of my singleness and look forward to marriage and think about what that meant. And I was doing all that on my own in the bush of Australia with the kangaroos and the emus, and it was a really neat time in my life. And I appreciate how the trail has allowed me to grow as a person. And I can think of, standing on Mount Katahdin at the end of the Appalachian Trail, my first through hike, and feeling like I had really gone from a girl to a woman. And then at the end of the record, standing on Springer Mountain with my husband and feeling like I've never been so in love in my entire life. So the trail has had some really scenic places and amazing memories, but I think it brings out my truest feelings and my truest self, and that's sort of what I remember the most.
Yeah. And hiking for so many hours each day, did you ever feel like you kind of were meditating or ever reached like a meditative state?
Oh, definitely. I think even if you're not doing a record, if you're on the trail for a long enough time, it sort of becomes a walking meditation or a walking prayer. And it's really beautiful in that sense and stress relieving and often can provide clarity. I've always said the trail is the best and the cheapest therapist I know.
Yeah, that's great. What was your biggest challenge on the trail or on any of your hikes?
I certainly have faced a lot of obstacles. Many of them have been in the form of bad weather or storms or sickness that I've contracted on the trail. But I had a really unique and tragic experience on my first through hike when I actually came across the body of someone who had committed suicide. And he was not a hiker, but he had driven into the woods and taken his own life. And I was the first person to discover that scene, and it was traumatic. I was terrified. I felt unsafe. And it took other hikers who heard about what had happened and were around me at that point, their generosity and their ability to comfort me and become my family, because I was 1,000 miles away from home. They gave me the courage to keep going, and I'm so glad I did. And I'm so thankful to all my friends on the trail who have become my trail family.
Yeah, and it does seem like it is a very big community on the trail, because I'm sure as you're hiking so many hours every day, you see the same people and you just really get to know them and you share that moment in time with them. Yeah,
it's really great because, on the trail, relationships are your entertainment. There's no TV or movies or mall, and you pass the time by listening to other people and listening to their stories. And after spending a half day or a full day with someone on the trail, a lot of times I feel like I know them as well as people that I've known my entire life.
That's great. And many animals, such as black bears, white-tailed deer, river otters, and wolves even make their home near the Appalachian Trail. Did you have any weird animal encounters or anything dangerous happen?
Animals are one of my favorite parts about backpacking. And before I started, I was like most people, I just thought bears and snakes would eat me, and I was terrified of them. And it got to the point where I saw so many bears and so many snakes throughout all my hikes that I learned they wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. And actually, on the Appalachian Trail record, the overall record, I was only out there 46 days, and I ended up seeing 36 black bears.
Oh, my goodness.
And that was so cool. It was one of my favorite parts of that hike. And, strangely enough, when people ask me, well, aren't the animals dangerous? The only two animals who I've had issues with in the past on the trail are dogs off leash and bees. Those are the ones that have been the most threatening.
Huh. Interesting. I never would have thought bees would be dangerous.
Well, I have a moderate bee allergy, so I have to be very careful when I go out there.
Right. So what gear did you wear and pack, and what advice can you give women about what to pack and wear?
There's a lot of great gear available now, but I would recommend or encourage people not to feel like they need to go out and spend a lot of money to start backpacking. I started with very old, worn-out gear. I was basically using my brother's old Boy Scout gear when I got started, and then I just began to collect nice pieces of gear throughout the years. And the great thing is, when you get a good piece of gear, it'll last a long time. It'll last a lifetime or several thousand miles. And there's certain things like if you go to an outdoor store, they'll try to sell you all these waterproof bags that are maybe $20. And it turns out trash bags and Ziploc bags are also waterproof. And you can get that for much less. So there's many tricks that can make it affordable and accessible for first timers. And the real trick is to just not take things that you're not going to use.
Right.
People struggle with really heavy packs, and it can make it very difficult and uncomfortable, and it creates a scenario where people do not want to return and do it again. But if you just leave the things at home that you don't need, typically you're going to have a better experience in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I hiked the Annapurna Trail in Nepal, my biggest thing was having really, really comfortable shoes. And I had only brought one pair of boots, and I had wished I had brought sandals. Do you only wear, what kind of shoes do you wear, and do you bring two pairs or just one?
Well, I wear lightweight trail shoes, lightweight hiking shoes. So they're low cut like a running shoe. It does not resemble a boot. And they are really comfortable. In fact, when people are like, well, what is the most important piece of gear? Usually I start with the shoes, because you're going to feel them on every single step that you take. So a comfy pair of shoes is really important. I typically don't take sandals or camp shoes, but when I stop for the day, I do take off my hiking shoes and let my feet air out or soak in a river. It's really important to take care of your feet. And then packs are really important as well, because again, while you're hiking, you're going to feel that pack. And if it's not a good fit, you're going to be miserable. So I always encourage people to test drive a pack if they're going to buy one, and make sure they can take it out and use it and put weight in it and wear it for at least 8 miles before they commit to buying it and using it on a long distance journey.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And one of the pictures that you sent me, I can see you're sitting in a chair eating pizza. Where did you get your supplies, drinking water, and food?
Well, that picture is from the record. So my husband brought pizza from town. I was trying to eat about 6,000 calories a day, so he was bringing me everything he could think of that I might possibly want to eat. Mm-hmm. When I go on traditional backpacking trips, I take a lot of freeze-dried food to eat for dinner. I love hard cheeses. That's one thing I still eat. So a real sharp cheddar or Parmesan is great on the trail. I also like to bring a lot of drink mixes like powdered Gatorade or lemonade, because if I am filtering my water, it will depend what trail I am as to what filter I'll use. Maybe I'll use some filter or a squeeze filter or chemicals, and still sometimes you might get a little bit of debris or a bit of aftertaste if you're using chemicals in your water. So I love adding those drink packets to make it taste a little bit better and get some extra calories in. Yeah,
definitely. And so do you carry a sleeping bag, or where do you sleep? Are there designated areas?
Most long distance trails are fairly lenient with where people are allowed to camp. There are a few stretches on the Appalachian Trail that have strict camping regulations, and you have to stay either at a shelter or at a designated campsite. I do typically carry my full pack with my tent or tarp and sleeping bag, and it's great to have a place like the AT where there are these trail shelters every 7 or 8 miles, because that's how the trail community forms and the trail friendships form, because everyone's staying in a generalized location. But I also love spending time on trails like the Pacific Crest Trail, where there aren't these shelters or designated campsites, and you're free to just stop wherever you find a beautiful flat spot beside the trail.
Okay, and do you usually just bring like a single woman tent?
I did before I got married. I only had single person tents, and now we have several larger tents. And my husband and I just welcomed our daughter into the world in November, and so now we were recently talking. We're like, man, we got to upgrade to a 3-person tent now. So then he's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So when you weren't hiking, what were you doing?
Initially, I worked a hospitality or seasonal job in Virginia where they had a high season, and I worked very hard, long hours to save up time and save up money. And then when it wasn't tourist season, I would go and I would hike. So that was a really nice cycle, and I did that for several years. And then I just realized, you know what, all my time, all my money is going to hiking, it's going to the trails. This is what I love doing. I wonder if I can make a career or a profession out of being a hiker. And so 5 years ago, I started my own hiking company, and I've been doing that ever since. And we encourage people to get outdoors through riding, speaking, and guiding, and it's been awesome. Again, it's a lot of hard work, but every single day, every hour is worth it.
And that's the Blue Ridge Hiking Company, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, I think I have a link to that at the end of the interview for more information. What were some of the emotions you faced hiking the trail from start to finish?
It's funny, my first through hike I consider just a volcano of emotions, an explosion. I was feeling things I don't think I had ever really felt before. I was experiencing true hunger and true thirst and feelings of really being lost or hopeless, but then at the same time feeling so proud and so accomplished, and also open and vulnerable in a way that I had never felt before. So it's this great time of feeling like all my senses, all my feelings were heightened. And that's how I usually feel on the trail. But doing the record, it was such a focused endeavor, and I couldn't let my emotions get out of control. I had to be single-minded for 46 days. And so I feel like I repressed a lot of hopelessness or fatigue or pride or excitement even. I wanted to stay very, very steady. And so when I got to the end, it was the place where I could finally let go of all those feelings, all of those emotions, and I just cried. And they weren't sad tears or happy tears. They were just everything.
Yeah.
Like all the feelings coming out all at once.
Right. Yeah. I can't even imagine just, having that focus and reaching the end and just achieving the goal, the difficult goal that you had set out for yourself. I mean, I think I would just become overwhelmed with emotion as well.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So how has hiking the Appalachian Trail changed you?
It's changed my values. I now value simplicity. I appreciate solitude and also silence, which is funny because before I started, I was just terrified that I was going to be bored and lonely the entire time. I appreciate quality relationships and try to have friendships with people who are very different than me. The trail is this really great world of having people literally on the path with you who are of all different ages, backgrounds, and beliefs. And I realized that having them as friends made me a more interesting person. The trail also redefined beauty and success for me. I didn't think that mainstream media really affected me before I started long distance hiking. And then I got out on the trail and realized how special it was to be away from magazines and TV and movies, and learning that on the trail I was beautiful not because of any societal standards, but I was beautiful because of how I treated other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was beautiful because I was a part of creation, and that was beautiful. And so it gave me a lot of self-confidence, and it made me realize that the most fulfilling things in life aren't always things that come easily. The trail is very hard. It's very difficult, and you have to work for it. But it's also one of the most fulfilling experiences that I've ever enjoyed.
What advice or tips can you give women considering hiking the Appalachian Trail?
I think it's important for women to get experience. If you are not a seasoned backpacker, then you probably should not start with the Appalachian Trail. You should start with shorter hikes and do a few weekend and week-long backpacking trips. That's a little hypocritical because I jumped right in and I was able to survive. But looking back, I really wish that I had gotten some more practice before I started. I know it would have helped me. And I also think it's able to enjoy the experience. It's important to stay within your comfort zone. So a lot of women don't feel comfortable hiking by themselves, in which case it would be great to start with a friend or a partner, and maybe at one point you would become comfortable hiking by yourself. Also, if something is going to put your mind at ease, or maybe a loved one's mind at ease. For example, my first hike, I didn't want to take a cell phone, but my mom insisted, and I knew that it was really important to her that I carry one, and I did. And it was worth the extra weight to know that she felt better about my expedition. And so I think it's important to make compromises and stay within your comfort zone, and then slowly and steadily expand that comfort zone as you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which women would you call your heroes?
Actually, that is a really good question because I've been talking about it a lot recently with friends and family. Most of my heroes are men, and on the trail, almost all my heroes are men. And that's one reason I'm so passionate about doing what I do on the trail and starting my own hiking company is because I want to be a hero. I want to be a female hero out on the trail for everyone, for men and for women and for kids that they can look up to and say, if she can do it, then so can I.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, I mean, you definitely are my hero. I look up to you and just the things that you've accomplished. It's definitely inspiring.
Thank you.
You said that you were following your heart when you hiked the Appalachian Trail. Where is your heart taking you next?
Oh, I think part of my heart belongs on the trail and will always stay out there. I truly believe that the trail is there for everyone at every phase of life. And I was really fortunate last summer. My husband and I, we backpacked 600 miles in my second trimester of pregnancy. So that was an entirely new experience and a new way to enjoy and appreciate the trail. And this year we'll be doing it with our new baby. And we probably won't be backpacking quite as much, but I know we'll be taking a lot of day hikes and we want to travel all over the country. And I have a new book coming out that we're going to promote, and we're going to hike in as many national parks and national forests and state parks as we possibly can.
Any other thoughts or advice for our listeners?
Just get out there. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Obviously, go prepared and take those things that are going to keep you safe on the trail. But experience is the greatest teacher. And by going out and having fun and not letting fear keep you at home, you will learn how to become a good hiker and a good backpacker. And hopefully it'll change your life for the better.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm honored to have spoken with you today about your experiences hiking and your accomplishments. It's just been really eye-opening, and I think a lot of our listeners will really feel the same. For more information about Jennifer, check out BlueRidgeHikingCO.com. Read her book, Becoming Odessa: Adventures on the Appalachian Trail, or you can check out her husband's latest book, 46 Days, Keeping Up with Jennifer Pharr Davis on the Appalachian Trail. Or if you enjoyed this interview and would like to share it with a friend, please send them the link as shown on the slide. Thank you again, Jennifer.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.